notes. I actually wrote notes for the episode 1, and then episode 2 I was going to rewatch. And I'm like, yeah, I've already got the name that I'm going to put in there. It's fine, because I will be changing when we get to episode 2. I will be changing the middle name.
Nice. Well, welcome everybody to the Unready Room. Unready as always.
Dude. Didn't even warn me.
15 seconds.
It's a good cold open. Perfect cold open.
Oh, well, welcome everybody to the Unready Room. We are living up to our brand name as usual. I love it. I think we've done a good thing with the branding here. We're never going to change. Except we are making a slight change this year, actually, because this is not just the Unready Room. This is also the Unready Room brought to you by Positively Trek, or Positively Trek brought to you by the Unready Room. I'm not sure. But we are going to be using this broadcast as also our episode of Positively Trek, discussing these two episodes. So I'm getting ahead of myself. We're talking about 2 episodes of the brand new Star Trek Starfleet Academy. And joining me, as always, is Brandi Jackola. Brandi, how are you? You're up there this time. How you doing?
Yeah, you're like you're okay. Yeah, wow. That's it's gonna take some getting. Yeah, it's like it's okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Everybody's here. Yeah. We're good. I'm well. How are you?
If we can have people, we could do like the Brady Bunch thing or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about this.
Excellent. Well, also joining us is Barry DeFord from the Positively Trek podcast. As I said, we're kind of mishmashing things and doing things together. So, Barry, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm positively unready.
Yay!
Yeah,
Ooh, Positively Unready.
Love it.
I think we have a new name. Oh, I love it. And thank you, all of you, for joining us live here as well. I see a lot of familiar names in the comments. I'm glad you've come with us 4 months later, or however long it's been since the last time we did this.
It feels like years.
It does. It's always too long. I always really enjoy these live discussions, and I mean, it also means that there's new Star Trek on, which is, doubly awesome. So yeah. And we get to do something today we have only done a handful of times, which is talk about a new Star Trek series. This is Banner Day. This is awesome. Yeah. So we were talking about the first 2 episodes, Kids These Days and Beta Test, both of which dropped on January 15th. So yeah, let's jump right in. I guess we start with our Holly Hunter voiceover recapping the burn with some incredible visuals and all of that stuff, but also this kind of flashback to 15 years before the main action of the series, introducing us to Captain Ake, young Caleb Muir, and his mother Anisha. So kind of a dark time for the Federation, really playing up that the circumstances surrounding the burn and how rough things were.
Yeah, we don't get a lot. I mean, we see a lot of the aftermath of that in Discovery season 3 and onward, but we don't really get a lot about what's going on with just the little people. Like, we know Earth just closed itself off, but where does that leave all of these other people? And Caleb and his mom are those people. They're just sifting through the systems. It's hard, and it's a hard life, and it's got to be terrifying because you never know what's going to happen. There's no order. There's very little law anymore. It's just everybody trying to survive.
Kind of reminds me of, like, from a historical standpoint, like after the fall, say, of like the Roman Empire or something, like living in northern Italy after the fall of the Roman Empire, and everything's kind of like, there's still aspects of what once was, but at the same time it's not quite the same. Like, what is law? The fact that the Federation is even trying to hold on to these laws, and I mean, obviously Ake later goes, yeah, no, incarcerating your mom was actually a stupid idea. I shouldn't have done it. That sort of thing. I guess there are ways where people will try to hold on to some mote of control when sometimes control is kind of impossible. And I think that's it is, people are going to make silly mistakes, or what we would consider that in normal circumstances. But when you're in abnormal circumstances, you're going to work to feed your family. You're going to work to feed the people important. You're going to work to keep the people you love safe. And if it means, unfortunately, hurting someone else sometimes, I mean, I'm not saying that's justifiable. I'm just saying that, like, what do you do when the surveillance cameras turn off? What do you do when there's only survival in front of you? You've got to act certain ways in certain circumstances, right? This is where I always believe, like, circumstances create people, not the other way around.
Agree.
Yeah, and we definitely see that with Anisha and her son being very much victims of those circumstances. And I'm like, you're trying to feed your kid, right? Like, that's, how do you get more basic than that as far as a need of a human being or a living being, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that there are folks who are going to take advantage of that situation as well. So we've got our introduction to Noose Braca as well, who, is apparently providing food for them, but I think deep down just enjoys killing and enjoys being an agent of chaos in this new world that has been created, right? And he's kind of using those circumstances. And I mean, in some ways, he could be a victim himself and have gotten to that point through the circumstances, but he's not doing much to help himself either, very obviously, right? So it's interesting. I'm looking forward to learning more about him too. And Paul Giamatti, man, he is chewing that scenery and spitting it out.
Yeah, and I love it. I love every second of it. This is my favorite Paul Giamatti role, bar none. It's just like, hand this man an Emmy, please, because you don't even know. Later on, you just don't even know how good it's gonna get.
I think John Adams is still my favorite Paul Giamatti, but at the same time, I found, like, first watch through, I found him to be a little on the exhausting side, but at the same time, I think that's it as well, is in a world where there's no decorum, you can actually act however you want, right? And I think that's the point. He even, like, I know it's probably not real sympathy, but he even does kind of like pull this sort of sympathy card of, like, they treated your mom like crap. And whether he's being facetious or manipulative or not, he's not wrong, right? In a lot of ways. So I think, a second watch, I see what they're trying to do with him, and I appreciate that, because I don't know, is he going to have redeeming qualities in the future, right?
I'm going to go with no, but we'll see.
Yeah.
You make a good point, though, about him kind of appealing to the sensibilities of others a little bit, like talking about how they treated Anisha and her kid, Caleb. There's also a moment later on when he comes back that I just love, where he kind of spits, like, you took that kid away from his mom and now you're putting him in one of your uniforms. Even I've never done anything as depraved as that. And I'm like, he's trying to score points and stuff, but you're like, huh. Like, ooh, it gives me a little pause, like, on the face of it, ooh, that does sound bad.
Yeah.
Recruited a child soldier, basically, kind of. I mean, not really, but like, you could interpret things a certain way, right?
Well, yeah, it's kind of one of those things like jail or Starfleet Academy. Which one will you choose? Starfleet Academy has its rules and regulations, but you're also never going to be denied food. You're never going to be beaten down by guards. You're going to have a bed to sleep in, a place to live. It seems like the trade-off is kind of like, especially after the life Caleb has led up to this point. It's granted he's planning to escape again, but he's in a pretty good place considering where he's been.
Well, yeah, it's sort of as an outsider, technically, to this new resurgent Federation, he is first punished by and then absorbed by the body politic of this group that he actually, at such a vulnerable age, does he really have any agency in the matter? And I think that's ultimately why Ake comes around and kind of takes on a, I don't know, I wouldn't say motherly war sort of style, but she's definitely, when she says he becomes the ward of the Federation, I feel like she becomes his ward more than anything. Like she becomes the one to take care of him in a lot of ways. And I think she takes that very personally, which I think is extremely good motivation for her character, especially given the circumstances that we find about her own son later.
Yeah, there's some definite interesting parallels to draw there. Dave made the comment, Caleb's mom reminds me of Tatiana Maslany. Dave, I'm gonna blow your flippin' mind right now. Anisha is played by Tatiana Maslany.
Yep.
So good catch.
Yep. Oh snap. I didn't.
Yep. Caleb's mom is Tatiana Maslany of Orphan Black, She-Hulk. That's her.
She can do anything. She can become anyone. She is a genius.
Yes, she's brilliant. I remember they actually announced her casting a few months ago, and I was like, oh my God. But then I didn't really hear much more about it. So it's clear, like not a main role, but a smaller role, but still great get. Like, I love
good
her.
Find.
Yeah.
Way earlier, someone, and I'm trying to find it. It's way along there. Also, hello everyone. I see there's people saying hi in the comments. It took me a second to open the YouTube link, but someone had said, basically, like maybe we're kind of living on the fringe of a kind of crazy and lawless time. I mean, not to get too political, but that's why they have me on the show, folks. We are living in a bit of a very uncertain and jarringly crazy moment in time. But I would say, with regard to the resurgence of the Federation, if enough people work together and cooperate with one another and help each other out, we can actually completely rebuild and make something new again. So that might be something I'll just kind of slide that way and say, like, yeah, chaos is coming, but if we all, actually organize ourselves into a way to help each other, mutually, we might be able to get through this in a positive way and actually wind up stronger than before. So who knows?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Alex Kurtzman made those comments quite a while
Kitty
ago.
Cat, thank you.
Yeah. Made those comments quite a while ago about the reasons they set this series when it is. And at the time I was like, I agree, that's great. Things are uncertain. Kids are inheriting an uncertain future and stuff. And I mean, like, those comments have become more relevant since. Like, it's not going in a direction away from that. Like, it's becoming more and more apparent that there are strong parallels between what they're going through. Admiral Vance, this is a good point to bring this up, actually. Admiral Vance has a line later in the episode that I just love, where he says to Captain Ake, to kind of convince her to take on the role, he says, "These kids are inheriting a broken world they did not create, but have to clean up."
Yeah.
Between the political strife happening, the reemergence of fascism, climate change, all of these things coming together, there's no more true statement than that. Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah. Well, last thing I'll say about this little flashback bit is Starfleet security has not gotten much better in 800 years, as Caleb steals Captain Ake's comm badge and is able to escape using it. And I'm like, oh boy, like, people were doing this centuries ago, guys, come on.
Yeah.
But it's Trek tradition at this point, so we'll take it.
It'd be interesting if the comm badges could deactivate when you take them off your uniform.
Yeah, or maybe recognize that the person holding it is not the person it's assigned to. I mean, how many times in TNG did, like, somebody take off their comm badge and put it down, and then the computer's like, Lieutenant Worf is in his quarters. It's like, no, just the comm badge is there. The computer is that smart and it can't like watch Worf walk away. Dancing on life signs. I don't know.
Yeah.
You would think the internal sensors of the ship would be able to figure that out, but apparently not.
No, the computer's like, oh, I can't do that. I read the script. It's not allowed. So we flash forward to 15 years later, and we get kind of the the trademark crazy action scene with this shuttle hijacking of Caleb being a prisoner of the Tarathans, which was a nice callback to season 1 of Enterprise. Not even Star Trek Enterprise in season 1; it was just Enterprise. The character in the episode Desert Crossing, the character played by Clancy Brown was from the planet Toroth, and they had the little tattoos or markings on the chin thing. So I was like, wow, deep cut. I really like that. I like when they do that. They bring something forward like that rather than creating generic bumpy headed alien number 64. They actually use something from the back catalog. I like that.
Well, there's plenty to use.
Exactly. Same with like in the final season of Discovery, Raynor being a one-off species from an episode of Deep Space Nine, right?
Yeah.
Good job, guys. I like that.
Oh man, Raynor, I miss that guy.
Yeah, right.
Loved him.
We get kind of the establishment of Caleb and how his life has been since, and it's obvious he's probably been from prison to prison and in and out of various bad situations, and he's obviously very intelligent and incredibly built, I guess.
Oh my lord,
but he's
the arms. The arms. And then at some point you're also going to see just the full chest and just, oh my lord, where did this guy come from?
So I have a little bit of interesting information that I got from an interview I heard, I think on Trek Culture. I forget who the interview was with, but they were talking about the guy that plays Caleb Meir, Sandro Rasta. And apparently he had to come down in muscle size for this role. He was a bodybuilder before he was ever an actor. And in order to play this role, they actually had him lose a bit of muscle mass because it was too much.
Yeah, Caleb Meir definitely is not malnourished.
No,
he's doing well.
Yes.
Ricky Leong mentions that the computer was very nice to say unstable flight path. I appreciated that quite a bit.
Yes.
Also, I love that it's Australian. It was like unstable light, upstate. I can't do an Australian accent. All I can do is say rise up lights in a North American accent, and that's razor blades in an Australian accent. But now everyone should be going rise up lights, rise up lights, rise up lights. Right, and it just becomes razor blades if you think about it. But anyways, no, I liked actually one thing about the action sequence, though I did find it a little like all of a sudden they're beating each other up. I appreciated the Expanse style as the ship was going up and down and left and right. They're smacking around on the inside of the ship and getting like pinned to the ceiling and stuff, which is, inertial dampers be damned when you're going through something like that. No, I mean, you're in trouble. You're going to experience all of the inertia. So no, I appreciated that quite a bit.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I think that Sandro could probably bench press me. And I'm a heavy girl.
I think maybe the three of us, he's got a good shot of like all at once.
I want to see that now. I want to experience that now. Sorry. He's a beautiful human.
I understand. So I don't have too much more to say about this scene. It's very much establishing the mood and what his life is like. But to contrast that, we go to Bajor, and actually the first time we've been to Bajor since the end of Deep Space Nine, which is kind of cool. And like I was a little like feeling tragic at this moment because we get to see the Little Blooms Early Education Center, and you're like, this is where he would have been if, you know, he hadn't have run away and all those circumstances led to that. Like, oh man, like what a contrast to where he's at now to what could have been, right? And little kids are adorable. I've taught all ages in my life, and I love teaching little kids. And like that discussion about, you know, when you steal something, you have to apologize, you have to fess up. I was like, I've had that conversation with kids before. It's adorable.
Yeah, it's so bright and sunny and green and adorable and just full of life and giggling children. It's just, yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody should have a preschool or a school like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a happy moment, and it's nice to sort of see, like, you know, that's Ake's happy place, is working with young people. And obviously, you know, bonk bonk on the head, you know, this is why she's being offered the chancellorship, right? I think that's, and I mean, I guess pun intended, chancellorship. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah. And offered it by Admiral Vance, whom I was so I mean, we knew he was going to be in this series. Having just seen the first 2 episodes, I didn't know he was going to be in the series this much. I love this character. Oded Fair is amazing, and so great to see him. And I love this scene. This is one of my favorite scenes in the episode, the back and forth between him and Ake, and, you know, the state of the world and the mistakes that were made, and all of that, and the reframing of, you know, her resigning in disgrace to, well, no, you resigned in protest over the very wrong actions of me and the Federation. And she's like, okay, kind of, but I like that kind of shift in thinking that, you know, we all know it was, you know, partially due to the influence of Discovery and her crew. So yay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I'm not good at names. Bimas Berwin 55 says, we miss you, Dadmiral. Yes. Vance is definitely a Dadmiral. There's Badmirals and then there's Dadmirals. Yep. Absolutely.
I honestly have been an Oded Fair fan for about 30 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So when he showed up, yes, it was. That was my first time when I'm just like, who is this? Yep. So, and that was back before IMDb existed. So I'm just like, I got to figure out who this guy is. So yeah, loved him for 30 years. He is amazing in everything he does.
Definitely. We learn a few things about Captain Ake here. She's 422 years old, and she's half Lanthanite. So she shares some species lineage with Pelia from Strange New Worlds. So I think that's an interesting way to get her character basically on both sides of the burn. She's seen the Federation for what it was before. She saw it at its darkest time, and now she's kind of helping to lead the charge into the brave new era, right? So it's kind of cool. I like that aspect.
Yeah,
I do too. I actually, when we were first watching this episode, Dave and I, she was talking about the 420 years, and I said, "Is she Lanthanite?" That was the first thing I said. And then I'm just like waiting for confirmation. Oh, half Lanthanite. Had it. Yeah. So it's nice. But I love. It seems like Lanthanites are kind of quirky in general.
Mm-hmm.
Because Ake is quirky in a great way, not complaining. Same thing with Pelia.
Yeah,
but they're
kind
really
of your
only
hippie aunt a little bit.
Yeah, they're space hippies.
Yeah, space hippies. Yeah, definitely. That's the right category. Like how Ake likes to walk around barefoot on the ship, and how she curls up in her chair, and just certain things that she says. She's definitely a hippie, and I love it.
Yeah. Definitely. I'm here for a hippie captain. Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think though, the perspective she holds as someone who has seen both sides, I don't know, maybe it kind of speaks to, one of the target audiences, and that's people born in the 70s and the 80s who were born before the internet with rotary phones, 3 channels of TV, and now this, right? This whole side of it. And I was speaking with my students about that recently and saying, like, I know what it's like. Have you ever had your parents say to you, "Oh, I know what it's like to be a 14-year-old," and we all do, right? But we don't know what it's like to be a 14-year-old in 2025 or 2026, right? We have no idea. We know what it's like to be a 14-year-old in the 90s, probably, or the late 80s, right? So I think that kind of lanthanite or half lanthanite feel of being kind of knowing a different time and existing in this time and having both in your head. I think that's why both young people and old people invite us over to their houses to fix their computers, because we have that context. We know which way to go, one way and another, right? So I like Ake's perspective in that, and I hope we get more of that, and I hope we get some trouble. I hope these are things she's going to have to kind of work out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I like that. The perspective, I think, is a big thing, and we're getting that with a few different characters as well, because we get onto the USS Athena, which is Starfleet Academy, basically.
Gorgeous ship.
Beautiful ship. Gorgeous. A very cool design. I like the kind of fluttery feather-like warp engine wings kind of thing,
which is very Greek. It's just it's named for the goddess of wisdom, Athena, and it just the ship reflects that, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. And so speaking of characters with unique perspectives, we fairly quickly meet the Doctor. Robert Picardo is back in the role as Voyager's doctor, formerly Voyager's doctor, 900 years ago, 800 years ago, whatever. But boy, talk about just stepping right back into those boots again as this character is perfect. I love him.
Hadn't missed a beat. He's still our doctor, and I was excited to find out that he was going to be on the show because I didn't get enough of him in Prodigy.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that he's there, and just that he gets to do opera. It's all the good things, everything we want from the Doctor.
Yeah, no, he comes in with that same energy, which I really like to see. It's like Bob Picardo was just basically waiting for the role to pick back up again, and here he is. He's just ready to be the Doctor, but at the same time, as per usual, I decided to add an aging program and all this sort of stuff. I'm glad they're not CGIing him or anything like that. They're just letting things kind of move in that direction. And again, much like in Picard, when we saw the artificial life form kind of debate continue, now we've got, what are they called, photonics? Was it? Yeah,
they prefer to be called photonics.
Yeah. So again, I think that's an interesting, and very likely this is going to be a thread we're going to travel down, and I'm excited for that. I am somewhat interested to see what they do with Sam and her character. I feel like she kind of came in like a living Gorillaz music video in a lot of ways, very like big smiles and like yeah, and all this sort of stuff, and a little bit of a pick me style of acting. But she's what, like several months old or something like that.
I think like
4 months. She's 4 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, well, that kind of makes sense that she would be so just like, I'm alive now, excited to be around and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how she grows in all of this. And I think that's one aspect, especially when the Doctor shows back up. This is when we start seeing a bit of the humor of this series really start to kick in quite a bit. I want to see a little more, like, they've learned from Lower Decks, and obviously Dan mentioned, Tawny Newsome is part of the writing team. There is a little bit of tongue-in-cheek that I appreciate. There is a bit of self-effacing humor and not taking itself quite as seriously, which is something that I really appreciate about Star Trek in its current form.
Yeah, it doesn't take itself so seriously as to invite parody, right? It kind of, it gets ahead of that, and like it acknowledges the fun little kind of bits of Star Trek that are a little silly and hangs a lantern on them, and yeah, it's in on the joke rather than setting itself up to be joked about, I think.
Yeah, there you go.
Which I really like. Speaking of Sam, I think she has the potential to be one of my favorite characters. Somebody in the comments said, oh yeah, there we go. Mossy said Sam is the new Data, right? Absolutely. We have that outsider character who's learning what it means to maybe not be human, but how to be a being of the Federation and integrate. And I think she mentions that the planet she's from is kind of using her as an introduction to reintegrate with organic life and stuff, and reintroduce themselves to the galaxy. So that's kind of a neat little perspective to throw in here. I really appreciate that too.
Yeah, and imagine though the pressure, because she's their avatar.
Yeah.
And they are basically putting all their chips on her. And the thing is that I don't feel like that is really a problem at first, but I think that as this goes on and the people who are, basically wanting reports back, I feel like it's going to get more difficult. So, but I don't think Sam is ever going to stop being Sam. I think she's always going to be the optimist, and she's always going to be trying to make friends and just, be a happy person.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't get enough of that kind of, I started a podcast called Positively Trek, like positivity, happiness, exuberance, enthusiasm. These are the things that, if I were a moth, that would be the flame that drew me towards it, right? So, yeah, I'm appreciating that. We're going to kind of jump around. I want to talk about some different characters and stuff.
Yes, please.
Let's go from my favorite member of the cadet corps so far to my favorite member of the faculty. Can we talk about Laura Thok? Because I love this character.
Oh my God. Gina Yasheri, she is a genius. She is amazing. I love every second that she's on screen. And Klingmadar, I love that.
Perfect.
I love that. Way to go. She just owns every scene she's in. And it's not because she's doing anything specifically to try to own that scene. It's just the character. The character never falters. She is this character. You know what she is about. You do not get in her way. And if you do, you get down on your floor and you're doing push-ups. Do not mess with her.
No.
Yeah. And I mean, some people might bristle against the, very martial attitude of her, but like,
she's Klingon and Jem'Hadar.
Exactly. You've always got. I've always loved the dynamic of like the warm, friendly commanding officer, and then the hard as nails, or commanding officer, and then the hard as nails first officer.
Yes.
I think of. I don't think Commander Adama is necessarily warm and cuddly, but I do love like the Adama versus Colonel Ty thing that we had in Battlestar Galactica, where he's the gruff, like gonna yell at you and. And I love the Taskmaster first officer thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a cliche, it's a trope, but I like it.
Yeah.
Well, and her accent lends really well to that kind, right? If you think about like on a sailing ship back in the day, like she's from Bethnal Green, which is like a sailing people, East London, don't mess around with me, that kind of style. She's a no nonsense. But at the same time, I love her lore, the fact that she's half Klingon, half Jem'Hadar, right? Two very warring species in something of a nurturing role, being an educator. So I'm excited to see her. I think she does a fantastic job, and very physical comedy too. Very, very physical comedy from her.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm curious. I would love to know if we're going to get some of the history of how she came about in this series. the unimaginative people out there are like, well, we learned in Deep Space Nine there are only male Jem'Hadar and they don't reproduce and blah blah blah. It's like it's almost a millennia later. Like, can you accept that they're a genetically engineered species? Anything that's engineered can be re-engineered or artificially evolved or changed in any number of ways. Like, the lack of imagination of people astounds me sometimes. That, like, oh, they established this and this one thing and that's going to be the rule from now on forevermore, amen. No, like, let's have an open mind here. Let's see where they're going with this,
because Star Trek always follows its own rules, don't you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And nothing ever changes. If Star Trek is the story of nothing ever changing, that's what this franchise is all about. Things never change and everything is always the same, and there's no point in evolving.
Yeah.
It's just people are sometimes they just don't understand that not everything is static. Not everything is going to be exactly the same forever and ever. And why would you want it to be?
Exactly.
Why would you want things to be static? For heaven's sake.
I think this series, in fact, and again, I was chatting with a buddy of mine about that this series, given where it's placed, given how it's placed, yeah, right. Ooh.
So the comment I just put up,
bird meat.
for our listeners, the comment I just put up is from Matthew. He says, "Klingon mother, Jem'Hadar father. Imagine Thanksgiving."
Gach with Ketracol white gravy.
Ooh.
Oh, I would think that they would not be using Ketracol white at this point. At least I hope they're not anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe it puts them to sleep after, as an opposite. But Cam, what I was getting at is like the amount of open territory that they now have with a rebuilding Federation, post-burn society, all this sort of stuff. I think we really do have the opportunity to really, really move away from the old canon shackles, as someone had mentioned, of the past, while still, there's a ton of fan service still happening, right? There's exocomps flying around, and did you know what
the exocomp's name is?
Yeah, if you turn on the subtitles on Paramount Plus,
it's Almond Basket.
Almond Basket.
Oh, yeah.
Peanut hamper, almond basket.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, and also voiced by the same actor. When she flies out of, this is the second episode we'll be talking about, when she flies out of the turbolift, she goes, "Wow," when she's like dealing with the doctors. It's the same voice.
Yeah, she was from Flight of the Conchords. I'm forgetting her name, but yeah.
I didn't look it up or write it down.
There's a system of tubes we can consult.
Yes.
I'm going to do that now.
Let's see who can win the race here.
Kether Donahue.
Oh, my eyes dropped on it just as you said it.
What if the world could be more like in my dreams? There's a little Flight of the Conchords reference there for anybody.
Nice. So yeah, okay. In the scene where we're introduced to Laura Thok for the first time, we're also introduced to another cadet, Jaden Krach, who I also love. I think he's going to be a really interesting character to follow. I love this whole initial interaction where, she's telling him to drop his bag on the idiot who's doing push-ups, and afterwards takes it off. He's like, "Sorry, no apologies." Like all of this kind of sensitive Klingon who's into bird watching and is pursuing a kind of medical pathway in the Academy. I think there's some potential to do some really cool stuff with a Klingon character that hasn't been done before. I remember years ago somebody saying like, "Oh, why don't we have like a Klingon counselor someday or something, just to like really, throw things on their side and make you see things from new perspectives." And absolutely, I'm here for this.
Yeah, I looked up the actor on IMDb, and that is his real eye color. It is stunning.
Oh wow.
Real eye color.
Impressive.
Just whoa.
Yeah.
Hypnotic.
The again, kind of going into this, like the Klingons being this like brutal warrior race and stuff like that, if I could make an analog to the Japanese samurai, right, in the Sengoku period in 1500s, they're slicing each other apart and betraying each other, and two-hand swinging swords choked up, there's no art to it, they're just killing each other. Like, I mean, the Warring States period was wild and crazy. By the 1800s, most Japanese samurai were hanging out staring at cherry blossoms, writing poetry. So this actually isn't outside of what happens to warrior races when great change happens over a long period of time. So for him to say, I choose not to die with honor, but to live a life of virtue, I'm like, yeah, that actually totally tracks. So again, if people are like, oh, they turned Klingons into blah blah, they're weaklings, da da da, it's like, just read history. Sometimes the warrior classes, when they no longer require war, become poets. It's it kind of happens a lot. So get over yourself. But yeah.
Not to mention that, like, and this case has been made about the Klingons from the beginning. For a culture to thrive and to advance, you need different people doing different things. Like, just because all we ever saw were Klingon warriors butting heads with each other and talking about glory in the afterlife doesn't mean there weren't Klingon engineers building their ships, Klingon doctors healing their wounded, Klingon chefs like we see on Deep Space Nine opening restaurants and serving people. Like, again, it comes down to that lack of imagination thing. And I love that the creators of this show are forcing people's imaginations open a little bit and using a lot of interesting imagination themselves to bring this to life. So
well, and anyone that's saying, oh, well, now Klingons are just all pansies or whatever, it's like, stop taking one character and painting the rest of the race with it. Knock it off. Stop being a dick, okay? Just stop it.
Yeah. I always like the grace that is extended to humanity. It blows my mind that we never extend that to other species. Like, they talk about, like, in Discovery, like, oh, the look of the Klingons has changed so much. Like, those don't look like Klingons. And I'm like, okay, well, like, compare Peter Dinklage to Patrick Stewart. Like, humans have a huge wide variety of ways we can look. I don't understand that, like, you take somebody from living in Nigeria and compare them to somebody living in northern Norway. Like, these are the same species, people. We look very different, and it's okay.
And if they have the same blood type, they can share organs if needed. So
exactly.
And I think that's the big piece of it is Star Trek has always kind of fallen into its monocultures in a lot of cases, but I think that's ultimately it, is when you start really cracking it open, what you start noticing is that they're not actually exploring space folks, they're exploring the human condition. That's the final frontier. That's where they're actually going. That's what each of these alien species truly are. It's just an aspect, a shard of the human condition. So if you dig deep enough, you're going to find out that it's extremely dynamic and can occupy different magisteria within what makes people. And I like that. I mean, I even noticing, again, kind of representation, I gotta say, and I guess this kind of hops into the next episode to some degree, but I saw a lot of people with different abilities, right? People with, disabilities being completely incorporated and normalized, and all these sorts of things. And I really appreciate that. I grew up with a lot of disabled people. My brother had cerebral palsy and epilepsy, and I saw people make some really great strides in their own lives, and seeing that kind of matter-of-factly just put in without people screaming about it and pointing and being like, look, this guy's deaf, or something like that. I really appreciate that. And so this aspect of a Klingon character showing a more sensitive side, awesome. I'm here for it. I like it. It's great.
Yeah. Can I just, like, my favorite moment of his, though, is when he's sealing up Laura Thok's wound. Do not kill your instructor on the first day. Do not kill your instructor on the first day. Oh my God. I laughed out loud at that.
Yeah.
I would also sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, Dave, let's get a Romulan that can't keep a secret. Elnor, we have him.
Yeah, already have him. just apropos of nothing, but it's nice to see a lot more curvy women up in there, like Laura, curvy woman. We've got some people on the bridge, curvy. Got some cadets that are curvy, and I just really appreciate that they're showing different body types now, because there are different body types. We are not all stick thin and perfect. We all have different body types, and I appreciate that that's finally being represented continually in this series.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Who should we go for? I guess we get a little bit with Genesis in this episode as well, who I noticed something with her in this episode, which is like she's very receptive to the people around her and kind of reflects back to them a little bit almost what they expect of her or something. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that like she uses that to kind of I don't know how to put it, but like to unseat people or to get them a little bit like, oh, kind of like I can't put it into words exactly, but I loved her reaction to Sam and to Caleb and stuff.
I think she's disrupting expectations, really.
Yeah.
And she's grown up in a family where her father's an admiral.
Yeah.
So I think that there's not as much pressure on her from her family as the pressure she's putting on herself, because she makes a statement. She says, I need to be captain. I need to be a captain. So I'm wondering how we're going to find out where that's coming from, really, because it doesn't feel like it's something that the family is putting pressure on her about. She seems very secure in herself in all other ways. So I'm interested to find out why she has to be a captain.
Yeah. It's hard to put a hang a sign on her yet. Even in the next episode, I see her. Yeah, she's very what would be the term? She's kind of like a social chameleon a little bit.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was trying to get to in my unsorted thoughts. But I'm curious about her more than anything. I think like I really want to find out what makes her tick and where she's coming from. I mean, we know a little bit of where she's coming from, but like what that means for her going forward and stuff. Another character we meet, Darum Ramey, the Kionian cadet, who I would say in this episode feels a little bit more like a character archetype than kind of a fully realized character, although we do get a bit with him when we see his true form and when he goes out on the hull and or maybe not true form, but his protected form. When he goes out on the hull and stuff. At first I was like, okay, we've met the Reggie Mantle of the series. Okay, we've met the jerk. I get it. But like anything, I think they're setting him up to go beyond that and become that fully realized round character that you maybe initially dismiss as the bully or the jock or the jerk kind of thing. So to be continued with him too, I think.
Yeah, I was, in fact, Caleb actually says the thing first. It's like, the asshole always reveals himself. And that is true. And the thing is that a lot of times with people who act like this, especially people who may come from a certain type of family expectation, maybe generally I find that people who act like that are actually suffering from self-esteem problems and have a lot of expectations put on them that they didn't ask for and don't know how to handle. And so they project all of that stuff outward and attack other people with it. And I'm looking forward to seeing him turn the corner, because I believe he will. I believe he will turn the corner at some point, because he can't remain this way the entire series. There's no growth in that. So he's got to have growth at some point. And I'm here for it, because I think that there is a lot of potential in him. And I want to know what caused him to be this way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that kind of nails it. I think my favorite piece is the decided dislike, or the kind of backhanded friendship that he and Caleb are building, right? When they're like talking back and forth and actually like helping each other and sort of encouraging one another, they like finish off with like bite me and stuff like that with each other, which I think is kind of good too. It creates a level of banter that I'm happy to see with the characters themselves. Like nothing is totally serious. Like they're actually going to be friends, but they're going to have this kind of sort of, I don't know, adversarial friendship, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm. And I like the self-awareness that Caleb has a little bit when all's said and done, like in the middle of the crisis when Darum is out on the hull and he hails him, he says, "Asshole 1 to asshole 2."
Yeah.
It's like, well, I realize my part in this.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is Caleb's very self-aware.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, made me howl. Yeah. Hey, I never thought of that. The comm system is like, oh, I know who you're trying to talk to.
Right?
That's funny. I never thought of that. That's great.
That ship has a really good AI, I guess.
Apparently. So we haven't really talked about the central, thing that happens, the plot that happens in this episode, which is so Caleb is trying to find his mother, is sending messages on this frequency that they'd agreed on, and that message gets tracked back to the Athena by the Venari Rawl and Nusbraka, who attacks the ship to get the warp drive. And I don't know, we have to spend a whole bunch of time on the plot. It's kind of, action-y to get some explosions and stuff in the pilot episode, and to get some of our heroes doing heroic stuff. My favorite bit of it, as I've already mentioned, of course, is Lura Thok getting injured, and the whole thing in the medical lab there, where she grabs Sam and says, "I would appreciate a little less cheerfulness as I'm facing my death." And her like, "I totally hear you."
I was like, I hear you.
I love it.
He just gets right up close.
Yeah.
Oh man, so great.
Yeah, I think this whole crisis that gets created, it does a lot to establish character and stuff. I did find it a little on the frenetic side, in the sense that like they're going to the Badlands, now they're attacked by a thing and the ship is almost destroyed and stuff. And I mean, again, this isn't new for Star Trek. These kinds of existential immediacy kind of things do kind of crop up at the start of Star Trek TV shows and movies. So it's not that, surprising. It is just, I found it like tonally like, whoa, okay, and using that kind of, it reminds me of what happened with season 3 of Strange New Worlds, where tone shifts were episodic, right? One episode is insane, everything's exploding, the ship is about to crack in half and everyone's about to die, and the next one it's like, two people meet when one guy's trying to jump over a fence, right? It's just a big shift in that respect. And I think it was interesting though that they're using and kind of fleshing out like how this programmable matter works, which I think is an interesting new sort of thing. Getting to see it originally in Discovery, I appreciate and think is really kind of a nifty new sort of technology. Star Trek has been good at predicting the future in the past. I mean, that's how we got sliding doors and all that sort of stuff, and tricorders and iPads and all those other pieces that, I think we're quite humble about not just crowing that from the rooftop all the time, looking at your phone and being like, you can thank Star Trek for that, pal, which I think we should actually make into a t-shirt. Just, you should thank Star Trek for that. But anyways, I do appreciate the programmable matter sort of stuff. I just felt that the pacing got like insane really, really fast. But at the same time, I mean, the opening was also quite frenetic as well. So maybe I'm just being fussy, which is totally possible.
I mean, I've spoken out about especially premieres and finales, how they just like they have to throw in the whiz bang crazy stuff going on, and I think sometimes as Star Trek fans, like we kind of have to go like, yeah, okay, we got to do that for the normals. I get it. I don't know. You made a really good point about the programmable matter, and it made me think of Star Trek technology in general. Like the original series, they had people beaming down to planets, and it's like, wow, this is a crazy, wild technology, and it's like magic. And then, we get to the next generation, and now we've got Heisenberg compensators and pattern buffers and matter. They're explaining it. They're kind of doing that to it. And then Discovery, we had the programmable matter, and especially from the perspective of the people coming from the 23rd century, they're like, wow, this is crazy. How does this all work? What, the cells are detached? What? That's crazy. And then in this one, we're like, oh, each one has a nuclear coefficient that's like a serial number, and it transmits to all the things. So we're getting a peek behind that curtain, and in the best Star Trek tradition, I guess. Like, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm smiling because I'm thinking about Linus trying to use his new comm badge to transport. Yes. It just, this is one of my favorite things. I like the setup for this crisis, because basically it's like, oh, we're seeing, because we've got a person who's there on the bridge saying, hey, this could be a teachable moment.
Yeah.
And so they go to this place to find out what is going on here. And that's when, it's a trap. So, but it has a good setup. There's a reason. They don't just suddenly decide, oh, we're just going to run into this thing. No, there's this anomaly happening, and this could be something that the students will learn from. So let's go check it out. That makes sense.
You're saying it's not like Voyager, where they're like, we have to get home. We really have to get home. Hey, there's a weird anomaly over there. Let's spend a week scanning it.
Yeah.
Yep.
What are you
Let's
doing?
do that. Let's do that. And let's learn how space is 3D. And if you get enveloped by something that is, still you could rise up out of it. Just do that, please. Just do that.
I remember your review of the episode Twisted. Yep.
Yep.
Excellent.
Don't get me started on that.
3D. So, a question: do we know how many episodes there are per season? 10. Yes, that is correct. 10 episodes per season, or at least in season 1. Presumably in season 2 as well, but we'll find out. Yeah, the Badlands shout out was nice. All kinds of little shout outs in this. One of my favorites was again in probably again my favorite scene, where Lura Thok says, "I am dead. I go into battle to reclaim my life." I'm like, oh, I love that. That's so great. The Niner in me is just like, oh, yes.
Just, she's everything.
Yeah. Oh, one last thing I wanted to say about Jada and Krog was there's a line that Lura Thok has to him that I didn't necessarily catch the first time around, but when I watched it again, they're setting some interesting stuff up with his backstory as well as to why he's doing what he's doing and that sort of thing. When he's kind of freaking out and is like kind of about to run away from doing this medical stuff and possibly causing further damage to his instructor, Lura Thok grabs him and says, "Whatever shame you are trying to escape, running now will only compound it." So interesting little hint there that there may be something more to his backstory, which is interesting.
Oh, there is, I'm sure.
I'm sure, yeah. I guess from there, once everything's dealt with, we get the Nusbraka. His ship is blown up, but he escapes in an escape pod to return another day, I guess, after a fight with Caleb and dropping this hint about Goja 5 that he last saw his mother there. We get to San Francisco, and throughout this episode, whenever they said San Francisco, every time I have just a few notes of that song sung by Scott McKenzie go through my head. So imagine my jaw when, as they're descending towards the city, we start hearing San Francisco. Not sung by Scott McKenzie though. And initially I was like, I don't know if I want them to have this song in this show. It's a little bit on the nose. And then I realized it was Rufus Wainwright singing it. And I was like, okay, you're fine. Do whatever you want. I love it. I'm on board.
Yeah. I thought it was a great choice. At first I'm like, oh, they're using that song? because, you know, when I was a kid, I was not allowed to listen to contemporary music. And so a lot of what I listened to was 50s, 60s, and early 70s. And this was one of those songs that I don't know why impacted me, because you know, it's basically about flower children, you know?
Yeah.
Which is not a problem, but I was just so isolated from that whole, you know, flower child movement, because it just wasn't my time period, really. I was just it extended a bit into the 70s, but you know, I was born in 73, and so I wasn't really aware of those things. And so but I heard the music. I heard all of the, like, everything was 50s, 60s, and 70s when I was growing up, and I was not allowed to listen to rock music at all. So it was one of those songs that just stuck with me, and I was very pleased that that they used it. And it was just so majestic, I guess is the word I want to use. The visuals paired with the song as it's coming in slowly, you know, because you don't want to go too fast and miss your mark. Just settle right where it's supposed to be, and the wings going down to be, you know, around like
The
um
wings of the
yeah,
building.
the
Yeah.
building. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful visually, it's beautiful orally, the, you know, the song going with it, and just gives you a sense of hope.
Yeah, and it's one of those songs, like, for me as well, as a young person, for whatever reason, I loved that song too, and listened to it a lot. It just, like, struck some weird chord in my head for some reason. And then the more that I thought about it, I was like, oh, the lyrics actually really fit kind of a bit of a Star Trek ideal, and especially the era we're in and what this show is doing. There's that line, there's a whole generation with a new explanation. I'm like, okay, yeah, we can massage this to fit what's going on here. I like it. Yeah.
People in motion.
Yeah. It's a hopeful song for people with hope, right? That's why people were going to San Francisco in the 1960s, was to kind of reimagine society in a lot of ways. And I mean, San Francisco has been itself a cultural touchstone for change within society, especially in the Western world. So no, I like that. And I like the fact that that they do kind of a bit of a long form transformation of the ship as it like goes down. It's kind of reminded me of like a really slow motion Sailor Moon transition, sort of, you know. Yeah, you know, but it does it harkens itself to you know, a lot of nostalgia, and yeah, kind of a return in a lot of ways, not a departure but a return. And I appreciate them going ahead with that. And yeah, Rufus Wainwright's always a load of fun. I like him.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's kind of where we leave it. We did talk a little bit about how we get the story of Captain Ake's son losing his life with his classmates during the burn, and we can see there's some recognition of parallels there. Caleb saying, "I'm not him," and she's like, "I'm aware," but there's some stuff going on there. She's seeing a bit of her son in him, and I think Caleb's seeing a bit of a mother figure, a surrogate mother figure in Captain Ake as well, or is certainly on the road to getting there over the course of the series. So yeah, and that's kind of where we leave things. Final thoughts on kids these days, and an off-the-cuff rating of this episode. And Barry, if you're kind of new, we give generally silly ratings for episodes that don't actually mean anything, and have no numerical value. But Brandi, if you want to give an example. Final thoughts and rating.
I thought this was a great way to start the series, personally. It's hard to determine what's going to happen in the first episode of anything. And so I wasn't prepared for them to suddenly, you know, be in the fight for their lives and possibly going to lose the ship. I'm like, well, okay, you're setting a tone. I get it. And I loved learning more about all these characters. Granted, there's not a lot we know yet about some of them, and I'm sure that we're going to get there. And I will give it, there's so many great things I could use here, but I'm going to give it 1. Did you bathe in a bog?
It's a good rating. Good rating. I forgot to mention, of course, folks in the comments chime in with your ratings, what you thought of the episode as well as we go, for sure. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I thought this was a strong start. There were kind of a few of those things that, watching it, I could kind of go along the lines of like, oh, I see where the haters are going to latch on to something here or there or whatever. But I enjoyed it. There's the little bit of the premiere freneticness that we talked about, that it's just part and parcel with how TV is done these days, I guess. So, whatever. But I'm going to give it 1 admonition not to be so cheerful when I'm facing death. That's my rating.
Yeah, I would say that this is an interesting place for anyone who is starting their Star Trek journey to start from. I feel like this is a new imagining of Star Trek in a lot of ways. So I think for all of us, this can be kind of a first watch for all of us in certain cases. I mean, fan service notwithstanding, there was a long time ago, someone had mentioned in the comments that this could have been its own standalone sci-fi show, right? With a Star Trek skin on it in some ways, right? Maybe I think that's definitely a possibility, but I guess in this respect, I would probably give it, I don't know, a basket of almonds, a basket of almonds, just full basket.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to the second episode then. We have episode 2, Beta Test, written by Noga Landau and Jane Maggs, and directed again by Alex Kurtzman. And we start out with something that I think is probably going to be a feature. Oh, we still got some more ratings coming in. Sorry. Probably going to be a feature of the episodes as we get to certain milestones. We get that fall semester full screen title card, I guess, going on, which is interesting. I like the stylistic stuff that's a little different from previous Star Trek series. And we see what I think is probably, not having seen more episodes past it, but what I think is probably a more typical episode of Starfleet Academy going forward. After we're in San Francisco, we're settled in there, and we've kind of almost got a day in the life of the Academy. We even start with like who we didn't really mention. People mentioned in the comments, but Stephen Colbert's digital dean of students. Like, good morning, cadets. Welcome to blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of the episode, well, it's been another great day at the Academy. And I'm like, oh, I see the framing device here. Okay, cool.
I am Starfleet Academy, and so can you.
Okay. Talk amongst yourselves, because I have to write that down as the title of the episode when this goes out as a podcast.
Yeah, do that thing. While we're doing that, there is one thing that I forgot to mention about episode 1, and that was the wall of names. And I did pause my my viewing on that so that I could write down a lot of these names. And there were many that I didn't recognize, but there were many that I felt were just adorable, like Admiral Jenny Lumet, Admiral Aaron McDonald, Admiral Tawny Newsome.
Yeah.
Lower Decks gets a shout out with Admiral Alonzo Freeman. There's also Admiral Kirsten Beyer. There's, of course, we see the ones up close like Christopher Pike and Spock and things like that. But we also see things like Ensign Cito Jaxa and Lieutenant J.G. Wesley Crusher, and just a lot that you don't really expect to see up there. Commander Christine Chappell, Captain Demora Sulu, these, and there were more that people were standing in front of that I couldn't read. And I just like, I want
you
to
get out of the way. I want to see the details.
I want someone from the production team to put forth a person free picture of all of those names, because I want to know what all of them are.
Mm-hmm. There's a bunch up there that are, and it's not even limited to Starfleet officers. There's one that's Ambassador Garrick is up there as well, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So it's a wall of people who have been influential in Starfleet or Academy history, I guess. I'm not, but it's interesting.
Yeah. Good times.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we get this opening bit where it's a speech by Captain Ake, kind of the commencement address, I guess, interspersed with bits of classes. We get the doctor teaching a xenobiology class, and of course, watching this, I'm thinking of his time as a mentor on Prodigy. And these buckets of mucus that they have to carry around that I don't know if everybody went through this, but do you remember, like, you'd have to
keep an egg alive?
Yeah. So later on, I think they had these like really sophisticated dolls that would actually record a bunch of stuff and how you handled them. But before that, yeah, it was you had to keep an egg whole and alive for a set period of time. It really reminded me of that, and it was like, I'm glad we didn't have buckets of mucus that had to be frozen off of you.
Yeah, that was the first thing I thought of, is, oh, it's the whole keep an egg alive thing.
Yeah. So I had a thought when I was watching this, again, somewhat of a tonal shift from the last episode. Somewhat is a understatement. Yeah, just don't worry about the clutch. Just go for it. But I did find that, so in this Star Trek, like we've been kind of saying, is we get reimagining of the familiar, right? Reimagining of things that should be recognizable to us. And I think the number one connection I would make is this is Star Trek's Clone High. If anyone has seen that, I would say very much that this is Star Trek's Clone High. So
yeah, I can't unsee that now.
Yeah, no, this is Star Trek's Clone High, and I hope so too, because again, you've got that bit of tongue-in-cheek aspect to things. There's a fair amount of humor interspersed with the drama of all of this, but kind of as a initial piece, I like how this episode is predicated around the return of Beta Z as well into the Federation. I think that is probably one of the most interesting ways to frame this entire episode, and I'm happy that they did that.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, just wanted to get one last little rating in there for sure that came in a bit late. Yeah, I like that framing. I like that idea for sure. It's an interesting thing they'll have to do, I think, is to strike a balance between the old and the new a little bit. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's stuck in there for, I'm going to be honest, for me, for you, for us. The slow pullback to reveal the Boothby Memorial Park sign. I mean, plot-wise, for somebody coming in watching this for their first Star Trek, that means absolutely nothing. That means everything to us. Like, that was great. Fan service, yeah. Who doesn't like a bit of fan service? I'm sorry. I'm just gonna say it. I like the fan service sometimes. We learn a little bit more about Lura Thok, for example. Her father is the Jem'Hadar and her mother was the Klingon. So we get that nice little bit where she says, "From my father, I learned that victory is life. From my mother, that today is a good day to die." And I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
And then I guess we should talk about, we get our first look at the opening credits and theme to the episode as well. What did you guys think of this? I thought the visuals were very interesting, growing from the seed and the visual metaphor there was pretty cool.
I loved it. It's sort of I guess it's like a QuickTime version of Rebirth. You've got the Delta just sitting in the dirt. And then the seedling pops up and pushes it aside, and you see the building being built, and just all of these things that were not a possibility when the burn happened. And now it's a rebuilding time. It's time to rebuild, and that's what these opening credits are showing us. We're rebuilding, and this is part of that journey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the analogy, the growing from a seed of something, right? It is very similar to that I think Star Trek has, to some degree, I would say, like most franchises, kind of been played out a little, right? We can talk about the superhero genre TV show or movies that have happened for the last 15 to 20 years and getting a little tiring. I'm going to say straight up, Star Wars kind of ran straight into a brick wall. I feel like in a lot of ways. And I don't think that's any different for Star Trek. A lot of these reimaginings maybe got a little long in the tooth. And I think this is a careful and delicate way, using kind of a brand new flower analogy, to do something new and to build something new. From the seed of something recognizable, we can build a completely new something else. And that's it. Is if you like the old Star Trek, there's a lot of streaming platforms. There's a lot of DVDs you can purchase. I am looking for something new. I want to see brand new characters doing brand new things in brand new contexts with brand new technology. And let's reimagine some familiar things into something different. So I think that's ultimately the statement that this opening crawl has for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's perfect. Absolutely. It reminds me actually when Discovery first came out, right? And their credits were, they'd show like the old TOS communicator, and then it kind of blew apart and reformed into the Discovery one. It was like the reimagining, the redrawing, but like this time around it's I think more fitting in with the theme because it's both in universe and out of universe, right? We've got the regrowth of the Federation, Brandi, as you said, with the after the burn and all of that. But out of universe, in the real world, Barry, like you said, very good point there. That yeah, this is something. I know when they first announced Starfleet Academy, I was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. That's kind of cool. I guess we'll see how that goes. But then as the announcements kept coming out and they said who was cast and what was going to be done and who was writing it and all of this stuff, and I was kind of like, oh, they're putting a lot into this. Like this isn't just like, oh, let's throw another Star Trek series out there. This feels like, okay, we need to really engineer this to be something special. And that's not to say that I don't think all Star Trek series are special in some way. They absolutely are. But this one has some care put into it. This one has nice fresh earth piled around it to ensure that it can get watered and grow really well. And yeah, the metaphor's there. I get it. I see it.
I will be the first to say, and I don't know if I've said this publicly as much, but when I heard that there was going to be a Starfleet Academy series, I'm like, why would I want to watch kids go to school? What is the appeal of that for me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we started getting closer and closer to the series, I started to be more interested in what they were planning to do. And after the first episode, I'm like, I was completely wrong. And I'm sorry that I ever doubted you. And should please give me more. Give me more right now.
Well, let's jump right into this episode then. So the main thing is that there's a Betazoid delegation going to be coming to kind of negotiate their possible, the Federation hopes anyway, re-entry into the Federation. There's a bunch of political stuff going on. This is kind of a movement that's been pushed by the youth delegation on Beta Z. And there's some thought that maybe the president is just coming to kind of humor them and will ultimately say no, which seems to be borne out by events in the episode a little bit. But I do love the dynamic and the kind of weight that this is given in the episode, that like the sundering of the Federation was a big thing. And when Beta Z left, it took a bunch of planets with it. That was kind of an inflection point for the current state of the Federation. What do we think of this Betazoid delegation and the negotiations that start and the inclusion of the cadets in this? Is it a little contrived that it's at the Academy that this is taking place, or what do you think, Barry?
No, I think this is excellent. And it actually harkens back to something, and I'm going to be political, but Nathan Troxel just mentioned I love the political aspects of this episode. So I'm right with you there, buddy. Seriously, I think that incorporating young people into future decisions is actually extremely important. And I think we don't give young people enough credit for that. And what I think about is the rewriting of the Cuban Constitution a little over a decade ago now. What basically happened was, in the country of Cuba, they basically had hundreds of town meetings and all these sorts of things where they did in fact invite young people, age 14 and up, to come in and actually have a say, be part of the discussion. Because if that new constitution is going to affect anybody, it's going to affect them the most and the longest. And they did in fact lower the voting age as well, to ensure that these young people could have a say on the several hundred points of the brand new constitution in that country. Whether you like or dislike the country is kind of immaterial to my point. What I'm basically saying here is that I think that's super important, and I don't think it's contrived whatsoever that they would have young people, even in a, in this case, kind of an observer role, for the most part. I think that's super important, because it's going to affect them. It's going to affect them the longest, and young people having a say in the future is kind of responsible, I think, in a lot of ways, and we ignore that to our own peril. And I think there's a lot of, and I hate to say it, and I don't hate to say it, there are a lot of very, very old men making a lot of choices for the future right now, and these choices will not affect them in any aspect whatsoever. And I think we need to reimagine how we do that in our own life. So again, Star Trek is kind of bonking us on the head with it.
I like that.
Yeah, they couldn't have done it better. I honestly think that if it were not for the youth delegation, this whole thing would not have even started. And of course, I think it was Ake who said they're coming here just to say no. But they have hope because of the youth delegation, and they have a pretty good grasp. These kids have a pretty good grasp of what needs to be done. And yeah, they could continue to hide behind their wall, but that way leads to stagnation. And the kids know that. They're smarter than people give them credit for. That's the thing about kids. We think that they're like, oh, kids, but they see things we don't see. They know things we don't know. They're the ones that have to deal with our future. And it's brilliant that this took place at Starfleet Academy, because we have your youth delegation, and now we have the youth of Starfleet that are witnessing this event, and hopefully going to tip the balance. Spoiler, they do. But and it also introduces probably the person I most identify with, which is Terima, president's daughter, because she feels everything all the time. There is no off switch. Girl, I feel you. I feel you hard.
Yeah. Very well played by Zoe Steiner as well, by the way.
She's so good.
I think on my second watch, I came to a greater appreciation of her performance in this, where like she's got this role in society that's very staid and, all this kind of stuff, but she's got this silly side to her that is at one point literally screaming to get out a little bit, which I think she played very well. Your point about youth, one of my favorite songs in the world is What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong. And the one lyric in that always gets me is, I see babies cry, I watch them grow, they'll learn much more than I'll ever know. I love that line so much, and it's so insightful. Every generation is going to advance so much further than the one before, and is going to see things that we can't even imagine. Flash forward that 1,000 years in the future, like how much more is that going to be a thing, right? So your point is very well taken. I really appreciate that, for sure. Terima, let's talk about her and Caleb. very kind of obvious initial connection between the two of them. Caleb is basically trying to get out of the academy because he's just had a really embarrassing incident. He's sick of everything. I loved Tarima's line where she's like, "Oh, you're conflicted," and he's like, "I'm not conflicted. You're literally on the fence." Great line. Very disarming. I love her. That she's just able to kind of get into Caleb's psyche, disarm him, and get close to him in a way that I don't think anybody ever has, maybe since his mother, possibly.
Agree. I agree with that completely.
Agree.
Reference acknowledged.
One thing I do worry about with Tarima is this regulator or whatever it is, this implant that she's got on her neck. Because there's this part of me that is like, are you basically, is this like putting a kid on drugs who's overactive or something like that? It makes me uncomfortable that she has to wear this, that she has to have this. I feel like there's got to be a better way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting.
There's a comment there. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it bothers me, and I feel like there's something going on there. I don't know what, but it seems to me like this is something that's, no, this is what you have to do, and this is what you're doing. And it's not really her choice. So it's just, it bothers me a great deal.
It calls the question of whether this thing that is regulating her emotions and her feelings, if it's being used as a tool or as a crutch. And space Ritalin, very good job. Good job, DJ Evil Dave. Well put.
Oh, my husband.
But I think that's it, right? Is I think this is going to be a good plot tool in the future, because I think that thing's coming off at some point in the next little while. And I think this could end up making Tarima potentially even a villain character, or at least a conflicted character moving forward to some degree. That when she loses this, she's been given no management skills on how to deal with things when that's off. And I think, there is an analog to be made about people who will medicate in certain ways, right? Like, things to handle, conditions like ADHD and stuff like that can be used as a tool to help regulate mood and behavior, to help a person develop tools so that when they're off that medicine, they are able to manage and regulate themselves, right? These things are not meant to be perfect, and they're not meant to be permanent. That said, I think in a lot of cases, there is a lot of overdiagnosis that can happen from time to time, and not a lot of progress made when that tool starts becoming a crutch. So this could, again, do a really good job of exploring something we explore now. I mean, the fact that her father is deaf and uses sign language, I think that's a really interesting way that, he's got his little tiny thing that goes in there. We see a tool being used. That's not a crutch. And I noticed that his son speaks to him using sign as well. And as far as I know, if there's any people who are signers out there, is that actually ASL they're using? It seems like it might be, but I don't know enough of it to know for sure. So
the parts that I recognized seemed like it. But again, I don't know the language thoroughly at all. So Matthew kind of anticipated my next point. There's a character in TNG, Tam Elbrin, a Betazoid, who... it's been a while since I've seen the episode, but Deanna mentions him having some of the same issues that Tarima seems to have here. And I think it was that, like, most Betazoids develop their telepathy in adolescence, but there's a few that are born with them, and they have a very hard time adjusting, and it overpowers them and that kind of thing. And at that time, I believe it was just regulated through counseling and that sort of thing. And he never was able to adjust, and ends up flying off alone with the Tin Man, this space-born life form, because he can't stand to be around other people. So interesting. I wonder if there's some parallels there. So yeah, could we?
Yes, we'll see.
Yeah. So the psionic wall that surrounds Beta Z and the surrounding systems, I thought was an interesting little bit of lore development that There's a bunch of stuff hidden behind that wall. One of which we find out is finally this Goja 5 that Caleb's been searching for. That was the hint dropped by Noose Braka. And suddenly when he discovers this information, he becomes the biggest proponent of, you need to drop that wall and rejoin the galaxy and all of that. We get a bit with Terima not responding well when she realizes what Caleb's motivation is, and there's a little bit of a tension between them. For me, for me personally, this part of the episode fell a little bit flat to me. It felt like her turn there. I don't know, her reaction to discovering what Caleb's motivation was. She seemed to react stronger to that than I would have expected, given that she knew there was some motivation there, but she just didn't know what it was. I don't know. It felt a little artificial, the kind of tension they had to have between the two of them. It felt more plot driven than character driven.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion though. I don't know what you guys think.
I honestly didn't see it that way. I saw it as two people who were getting to know each other, kind of getting flirty. She's doing him a favor, and then she finds out why, and they have this little fight. And the things that he says, he doesn't really mean.
Mm-hmm.
But it hurts her deeply, and that's why she just turns away and goes, "Thank you," and just walks off.
I liked that bit.
Yeah.
That felt very real. Like her reaction there. I was like, oh yeah, that's like, oh gosh.
That's the only reaction. That's the only good reaction she could have. And she did the right thing by walking away like that and just leaving him in his misery, basically, because even after he shouts, "You're welcome," and he's realizing what he's just done.
Yeah, we've all been there. We've been in that conversation before. On both sides, I think, at some point in our life.
So yeah, I didn't really see it that way. I saw it as two people getting to know each other, him giving her this gift of, seeing the humpback whales because she couldn't see them when, breaching the water. And she just basically, he was just making a transaction in his mind. It's like, I'm doing this so I can get this. That's what he made her feel like. Is that it was just transactional and had no real interest in her as a person.
Yeah.
So, and then that wasn't true, but still, that's how it seemed.
Yeah.
If they were going to do anything kind of in a sort of rushed way and like you said, kind of more plot driven, I would say this would be the best for it because, as people are, their brains are developing, their emotions are kind of new and set, overreaction and stuff like that does happen, right? I mean, I think also you're catching two people who, we like to say kind of are existing more in their brain stem at that moment as well, too, right? There's a lot of, and there's a lot crammed in this episode. As much as it has a slower pace to it, if you think about how much ground they cover, right? They literally reincorporate Beta Z into the Federation and make it the capital. That's pretty huge. In that respect. So.
Absolutely. Pat Trekkie, I had the exact same thought when I watched this, by the way.
Yeah.
Lost a planet Caleb has. How embarrassing.
In fact, I remember you saying that when we watched it.
Yep. Absolutely. Very nice. Now, Barry, I know you have maybe a hard out.
I do, unfortunately. There's been a couple things that have come up here, but I've really enjoyed this, and I'll try to make sure I set aside a little bit longer next time around. If we're
usually only about an hour. It's just because there's 2 episodes.
2 episodes, yeah.
We
usually don't gab this long, but it's a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah. One thing, actually, Dan, that I really appreciate about this, and obviously I've only been a viewer before, is the fact that there is very robust and wonderful conversation happening in the chat, and I keep finding myself like being like, oh yeah, wait, well, what are we talking about? Kind of so yeah, no, mad shout out to everybody in the chat here. It's been great getting your insights too. And yeah, no, it's I love the medium, so I'm excited to be doing this over the next couple of episodes here with y'all. And Brandi, it's always a pleasure. So
yeah, it's been a long time since we've done this.
Yeah. How time has withered my once youthful looks.
Honey, under this makeup. Just kidding.
If you do have, I don't know how much time you have left, but if you have any final thoughts for this episode and rating that you want to give.
Oh man. Well, I think in this case, I would give it 3 emotional chips out of 5. I don't know what that even means. What I do like about it is this I hope is the tone they set. This I hope is the pace they set. Like I said, Star Trek Clone High meets Star Trek Beverly Hills 90210 meets Star Trek Saved by the Bell. I could do this all day. I think this is the direction. This is a frontier that Star Trek has never done before. And as Dan, you'd mentioned, this is a rare time where it's set on one planet and they don't even go into space this go around. I think there's an aspect of Deep Space Nine. Back in the day, we were like, oh, a Star Trek show's happening only on a space station? That sounds boring. And it ends up being one of the best series of all time, in my humble opinion. So
here.
I'm hoping that again they can do that with this series, and set it just in San Francisco on the Athena, and then when the Athena goes around and does stuff, I mean, there you go. You've kind of got both possibilities at hand. I hope that they take it in this direction. This is good, and I'm excited to see how other planets and stuff incorporate themselves back into the Federation, and I'm excited to see the reimagining of practically everything. That's what I'm here for.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Barry. We really appreciate it, and look forward to next week.
Absolutely, positively. All right. I will see you all in the next one, and live long and prosper, everybody.
Awesome. Live long and prosper. So we will continue to discuss this episode a little bit more, because there is a little bit more that I want to talk about for sure. Can I just...
You're over there now.
Oh, you're over there. I'm all turned
over
around.
Go ahead. Sorry. I mean,
we haven't brought up Jet Reno yet, who is just... I'm so thrilled to see Tig Notaro back in Star Trek again. We knew she was going to be in it, but of course she wasn't in that first episode. But that scene in her classroom with her and Caleb, as someone who has taught high school and like grade 12, so close to this age, not quite this age, but she likes Caleb. She's like, I like this cadet. That is how you act with a cadet or a student that you see something in. Even though you're dressing him down a little bit, you're putting him on the spot, you want to see what this kid can do. She likes him. I like that.
Yes, it's very apparent, because if she didn't care, she wouldn't say, she wouldn't waste any time on him at all.
Yeah.
But she's like, oh, no, let's talk.
Yeah, absolutely. And just perfectly played by Tig. She's so good. I
adore that woman. I think she's just brilliant. If you ever get a chance to see any of her comedy specials, do watch them. I love her. She's amazing. And the things that she's been through to still be here.
Yes.
She's magnificent.
Absolutely. I stopped listening to it a while ago, but she does a podcast with a couple other comedians called Handsome, which is it's a lot of fun to listen to. And when I was listening to it, there were even occasional little hints dropped about Starfleet Academy. This was like a year ago while they were filming it.
Wow.
So I was like, ooh, a little
impressive
insight into what's going on there. Not not plot anything or anything like that,
Oh,
but
yeah.
just like she's like, oh, I love working with Holly Hunter, she's amazing, and stuff like that. It was pretty cool.
Very much.
Yes, thank you. That little bit later where Laura Thok says, we just take our strongest, pit them against Beta Zed's strongest, and have them fight to the death. And Tig, seriously, what is wrong with you? I did like that.
Oh yeah.
We get a little bit more with Darum Raimi in this episode too, kind of rounding out his character a little bit. More still just in conflict with Caleb though, and finding out that he's his roommate is kind of a big thing in this episode. But one thing that I noticed in my second watch of this episode, just a nice little touch by the writers, when the door opens and he finds out that that's his roommate, they're like, oh no. Caleb says, guards calls out for you're not in prison anymore, dude.
Yep.
But I love that he calls out for the guards. Nice touch. I love that.
Yeah, well done. I love the many facial expressions of Caleb. Yes. His face is very expressive, and I am here for it. He's so fun to watch. He's just really fun to watch. And I like in this episode, at the end of the episode, because basically Caleb's not making his bed. He doesn't care. And he just, throws everything around. It's God only knows what's rotting underneath his bunk, but he makes a choice and he starts to make his bed, and Raimi comes over with like, no, don't do it like that. And so they're doing it together. Mm-hmm. So there's obviously hope for Darum and Caleb not being completely antagonistic, and just for Darum to be not a dick, I guess. Yeah. There's a lot of potential there, and I appreciate that, because otherwise his character would just be insufferable if he continues to just be this big old I'm the best person here. And again, I feel like it's really coming from a place of insecurity. So yeah, maybe his parents are terrible people. I don't know. I guess we'll see.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm looking forward to finding out more about that for sure. We got a lot of lore dump in this episode about the state of the Federation and what's going on, and I found the oblique reference to the War College in the first episode to be interesting. Mm-hmm. And in this episode, we learn a little bit more about it, and they're kind of they were the vanguard of creating new officers in the period of the post-burn era. And really got the Federation through those tough times when they shifted more from exploration, obviously, to defense and protecting what they had left, basically. Interesting take on things, and I predict tension there between the Academy and the War College and their ideologies going forward and stuff. And I think there's some potential for some really cool stuff there that I'm looking forward to.
Well, and it's interesting because at the end of the episode, we find out that Tareema has joined the War College, whereas her brother has joined Starfleet Academy. And I'm like, okay. Just not what I expected her to do. But that's the thing. I think she likes defying expectations, because I think that she's under the weight of a lot of expectations from her father, and now she's finally going to be away from that. And I think she's testing out who she can actually be when people aren't around telling her who she is.
Yeah, definitely. And Pat Trekkie, I had the same thought, the Makos of this era, that kind of, they're a part of Starfleet, but they're kind of a little bit of a separate stream, which is kind of interesting. That and I like that they're going to continue as well, that those streams are going to run next to each other, and again probably come into a bit of a conflict. But yeah, curious to see where that goes.
Conflict is inevitable.
I'm sure. Absolutely.
I mean, when you get a look at some of those people in the War College, it's like,
Yeah.
Okay, there's going to be tension here.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, and so the other big lore dump, of course, we talked a little bit about it, was the Federation is looking to reestablish its former seat of government. We saw Fed HQ in Discovery, that space station kind of out hidden somewhere, which could also go other places, apparently, which is kind of
It's
cool.
very pretty, though. Very, very. I
Very
love the
pretty.
design of it.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
But they're looking to kind of reestablish a capital of the Federation again. And, there's some contenders, a bunch of different cities on Earth. And of course, the Doctor is like, oh, but what about Paris? It's like, oh, yeah, that's in the mix too. Their old seat of government in Paris, the way things were, the way things have always been. And towards the end of the episode, it looks like that's the decision that's made, is it's going to be back in Paris. It's going to be as things always have been, which is the impetus for the eventual solution with the Betazoid issue, which was a genuine surprise to me. And I loved this solution that, like, we proposed that the capital of the Federation, the seat of government, be on Beta Z. And that just completely knocks the socks off the Betazoid president. Like, he's just like, buh. It's like, I guess I get my 12 starships and more. Like, that's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how they were going to resolve this either, and I think it was Ake who was just like, "Oh, we're thinking like we're in the past," and it makes sense. It's the fact that they were finally hearing what it's because the president's like, I want this, I want this, I want this, and Vance is countering with, well, we can do this, this, and this. And what it really comes down to is show us that you value us.
Yeah.
Show us why you want us back. And that's what they do by offering to build Federation headquarters on Beta Z. And I really love the look on the president's face when that happens. It's just like, you hurt me.
Yeah.
You listened.
Yeah, that was really lovely. I liked that. I love the parallels between like what Captain Ake says, where she thinks of herself as progressive and new, kind of new agey and hippie, like we were saying, but she's more traditionalist than she herself even realized, and hadn't really thought about what change and moving forward really would be. And I like that self-reflection. I thought that was really cool thing for her character. But then also with regards to Caleb, it's kind of the same where she has been looking back at the kid that he was and trying to protect that kid and atone for those mistakes. And she has to realize that, we're past that now. And Caleb's an adult, and that her delivery of the line, by the way, I really needed that kid to be okay. Like, my heart broke a little bit when she looked up at him and said that. Holly Hunter, what an incredible actor. Such a get for Star Trek. I love that she's in this.
I love that she was up for it. I mean, just the fact that she would accept is just like, wait, what? Who? And I haven't always liked her performances. And that's actually, that's a thing with me. That's not anything to do with her per se. It's just something about her used to bug me. But this series has really brought to the forefront that no, this is a powerhouse of a woman. She's a powerhouse of an actor, and she is giving us this gift by being Ake. It's just yeah. Also, please just give her an Emmy now. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she's incredible. So the other little bit, of course, is Goja 5, of course, is behind this wall, as we've discovered, and the Starfleet has fulfilled its promise to Caleb. They said they would try and learn whatever they could, and they made it to Goja 5 and found out that Anisha had made it off that planet, or off of Goja 5, 3 months ago. So she's still out there somewhere, and that's where that part of the story is left, which I like this little thread of a story that's kind of seeding its way through these episodes. So I like following this thread will be interesting, I think.
It will be, especially after Braca had said to Caleb, showing what happened to her after she escaped from Goja 5. And so it's just like, is he just playing with them? Did something happen? We don't know yet. Just guess it's a lot of wait and see when we pick up the trail again.
Yeah. Well, I guess the final thing is we talked about Trima going off to the War College, and her brother is now the third roommate with.
Oh my God.
So I love this a little bit because when we see him earlier in the episode, he's in like diplomatic mode, right? He's in his robes and he's talking with his father using sign language. And the one interaction we get with him, which I also really liked, was when Terima was going off after Caleb, and he's like, "Oh, chaos boy," and she's like, "Oh, what are you gonna, you're gonna tell me not to?" And he's like, "No, go get him." And I was like, "Oh, that's a nice little counter to the usual overbearing brother who's overprotective of his sister and stuff." I like that. And it's like, "Oh, he seems very poised and dignified," and nope.
No, absolutely not.
Oh man, I loved that final scene because I was like, "Oh, this guy can just turn it on and off." Apparently, he's a klutz. He's so awkward and ridiculous, and like I feel like I've met that kid before. The way he talks, like, "Oh, bro's making beds. Okay, love to see it." I'm just like, "Oh my god, I've taught that kid."
Oh, tickled me. Lifting weights and whoa! Oh, that was funny.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
So good.
I
So
I
good.
appreciated that performance for sure.
Yes.
And yes, we should mention the humpbacks. Very important to Star Trek history. Good to see they're thriving in the San Francisco area. That's awesome.
I did mention the humpbacks because I
That's
mentioned
true.
how he took Terima under the water,
Yeah.
to see the whales because they weren't coming up.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that pretty much covers beta test. I guess, Brandi, your final thoughts and rating for episode 2.
Well, after the roller coaster ride that was episode 1, I expected something that would be a little more indicative of what a day in the life at the Academy is. But that, at the same time, is not really what this is, because basically there's this negotiation trying to get Beta back into the Federation. And so there's a lot of tension going on here as well. So what? There's not, people shooting at each other, or, them trying to do something explosive. But that's the thing. Diplomacy can be full of landmines. And so to watch, and seeing Vance again, sort of in that moderator mode, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Because he did that before with, oh gosh, what's her name? The Orion, who was yeah, I can't remember her name right now, but
oh my goodness,
when he was negotiating with her. There we go, Osira. When he was negotiating with her. So it's clear he is no stranger to negotiations, but he's approaching this out of the exact same way that he goes with all the other negotiations, that's going to work this time. So I love that that they figure it out and that they make this choice. So though it may seem like a quieter episode, there's actually some monumental stuff that is going on here that is going to shape the future of the series, because it's shaping the future of the Federation. So I really enjoyed this. I love Terima, girl, I get you. And I would give this I would give this a, oh gosh, there's so many things cluttering my brain right now. Um, let's just go with, literally on the fence. I give it one literally on the fence.
Nice. Yeah, I enjoyed this episode. I think not quite as much as the premiere. For me, there was a little bit of a dip into the angsty 20-something stuff going on, but that's a problem with me. I think like this show is about 20-somethings, so I'm getting to an age where I know not everything is made for me, and I need to set that aside. I, like Captain Ake, need to adjust my thinking a little bit and realize that there's some things that I've left behind in my life, and I need to move on a little bit. And some of those are, the fact that the world is not made for me anymore. So that's make of that what you will, I guess. But I generally, though, really enjoyed this episode. It just, for me, a little bit of a dip, but I really liked the acting. I love the premise of this show. Feels to me like it's going to really lend itself to deep character dives, which is what I really like. So yeah, I think we're on a really good path for some really good stuff. So I'm going to give this one, I just got to say, 2 majestic, but also a little bit obviously CGI humpback whales.
Fair enough.
Oh, one thing that I didn't bring up, and a few people did in the comments, is all of the Star Trek Prodigy references that I really appreciate and did not expect. So
Same.
in the first episode, we had Sam literally calling out Dal Murph and Captain Gwendala, which was wonderful. And then, of course, the Brickar walking around in the Academy in this one. I was just like, oh my God, this looks exactly like Rock Talk. It's brilliant. I love it. Yeah, no notes on that.
Yeah, no notes for me either. It's like if you're gonna throw in some animated characters but make them, like more live action, Brickar is the perfect place to start.
100%. 100%. Awesome. Well, Brandi, I guess all that's left is for us to do our little bit of a closing. So what have you got going on podcast wise? I know Shield Podulation is going strong. Is Boldly Go coming back as well?
It will when Strange New Worlds comes back, because I am too old and tired to keep that up all year round.
Gotcha.
I don't want to. I don't want to feel like I have to come up with an idea every week or every 2 weeks for a show that's only 10 episodes long. And it's hard on me, and I'm lazy. No, I'm not lazy. I'm just tired.
That is
Which is why Shield Podulation came about, because we basically just did it so that in a way that we don't edit, and so it's really easy to do. Basically, we just get it out the same day. But yes, we are doing our next episode today. So not directly after this. We'll be having lunch first. Thank you. And we're covering a TAS episode, which is More Tribbles, More Troubles.
Oh, nice.
Which is funny because it's the episode prior to the only other TAS episode that we've done. So they're like right back to back in that regard. We still have not hit on an original series one yet.
That's funny.
Not yet. Someday it's going to happen, but we're having a great time with it. And so look forward the next episode later on today.
Awesome. Well, yeah. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you to everyone who's listening afterwards as well, both here on YouTube and of course on Positively Trek. So this live stream, the audio of it will serve as Positively Trek for the weeks throughout the run of Starfleet Academy. So if you are listening to this in your podcast feed and you do want to join us here on YouTube each week, Saturday at noon Mountain Time, so that would be 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Yes.
Dude, everybody has clocks in their phones. They can
I know. I just like to make it where the most people are. I like to make it easy. So yeah, come join us. We'd love to have you take part in the live discussion. It's always a lot of fun. But if you prefer to just listen in your podcast feed, that's fine as well. We will be there for you to find. So thank you all so much for joining us this week, and we'll see you again next week for another episode of Starfleet Academy. Until then, as always, live long and prosper and stay positive. All right, bye.